The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Yeah, the trio all in studio for this weekend show. We're still kind of somewhat catching up on taking the 2 weekends of Alabama Speed Weeks off, but doesn't matter. We're good. We're all here. We're ready to go. Ready to lead you into Cup Series qualifying at Darlington, our flagship station. Well, let's just face it. If you're watching us on CRN Live on YouTube, you're on your own. I'm sure you can find it. I mean, if you're listening to this show, you know where to find racing. And if not, we'll help you. We got silly season news from NASCAR. We got rumors galore. And I will tell you this right now. Again, we don't generally deal a whole lot with rumors, but in this case, it's kind of too big to pass up, so we're going to talk about it. We got penalties in the NHRA. When was the last time you heard about that? Been a while, huh? Preparations for the Indy 500 continue, especially for one Kyle Larson set to do the double. All that and more when we get rolling on CRN, and that is next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Four tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Good morning to y'all. Hope everything is going well. And if you were in the southeastern part of the country here throughout the course of the week, hopefully you made it through the storms with little to no damage. And I know that there were a couple of people who unfortunately did not make it through the storm. So our thoughts and our prayers go out to them. And really couldn't ask for much better. I mean, we woke up this morning. Well, I mean, let's start with last night.
Yeah, I'm a little on the sleepy side from last night.
Yeah.
Last night was wild.
Unusual effect here in the southern part of the United States. We talk about what they call the northern lights, the aurora borealis, whatever you want to call it. It very rarely gets down into this part of the country, and when it does, it creates a big stir, and it did last night. So it was really, really cool to be able to kind of check that out. A lot of great pictures online as well. If you know anybody from the southeastern part of the country like that guy, check out the pictures.
I really didn't realize it was going on. I didn't think it was going to go on to like 2 a.m. this morning. And then I was looking at Twitter, and the Weather Service office out of Birmingham said the aurora in full effect over Alabama now. Go outside if you can. And it was like 9:55 last night.
Yeah.
And walked outside. My wife was sitting on the couch just watching her brother race last night. And I'm standing out there, and I'm like, where's it at? Where's it at? I'm looking. And our neighbors come outside, and they're like, dude, look. Oh, my gosh, look. And they're holding their phone up.
Yeah.
And the only way you could see it crystal clear is through a phone camera. Where the phone cameras would
They
filter out the light and everything. Yeah. That was hands down one of the wickedest things I've ever seen.
Yeah. Very, very cool stuff. So we had that, and of course this weekend, Mother's Day weekend. So to all the moms out there, and all the moms that we remember that have gone on, we remember you well. Hopefully you have a great Mother's Day weekend. All right, let's get into the action here and talk about this, because not a whole lot of racing last weekend amongst the series we regularly cover, but it did begin with the Craftsman Truck Series at Kansas 1 week ago today as we air live Saturday morning. Now, as the final stage got underway, Corey Heim got the jump out front, took the lead from Nick Sanchez just past the halfway mark of the race. He led the final 64 laps, went on to claim his second win of 2024. Zane Smith jumped up to claim second. Was trailed by Christian Eckes, Caden Honeycutt, Brett Moffitt. Sanchez faded to sixth. Tanner Gray, Dean Thompson, Daniel Dye, Matt Crafton made up the top 10. So Heim, Christian Eckes led the series with 2 wins each. We'll fill in the rest of the blanks, because guess who ran last night? Trying to do our 24 Hours of Darlington replay.
And it didn't work.
Not quite. Wasn't quite the same, but hey. Cup Series and Formula One were in Miami. Cup Series in Kansas, Formula One in Miami. They were supposed to actually get started at the same time. Kansas got delayed by rain, so the Cup Series started later. So we start in Miami with Max Verstappen on the pole. Nothing new there, right?
Shocker.
Yeah, we were all shocked by that. After that, the script
he's
right
human.
out the window.
He's human.
Yeah. And of course, that's presuming there is one, and I don't think there is because it's live sports, but still. At the midway point of the race, safety car period came out. That played perfectly into McLaren's strategy. They brought Lando Norris down in for 4 brand new tires. They did so quickly enough, got him back out in the lead, and he never let the lead go.
Nope.
Got his first win ever in F1 competition. We'll get back to that in a bit. Verstappen settled for second, over 7.5 seconds back. Usually we're talking about Verstappen beating everybody by 7.5 seconds and then wondering what went wrong with him because it wasn't a bigger gap.
Right.
Charles Leclerc third, Sergio Perez fourth, then Carlos Sainz, Sir Lewis Hamilton, Yuki Tsunoda, George Russell, Fernando Alonso, and Esteban Ocon. Okay, yes, the human, we think, still leads the points. Verstappen still up 136 to 103 over his teammate Sergio Perez. Charles Leclerc's third with 98. Lando Norris jumps up into a tie with Carlos Sainz fourth with 83 points, but because they are tied, there is a tiebreaker involved. We'll start with wins. Lando Norris has one. Guess who doesn't? So Lando Norris technically is considered the guy in third. Oscar Piastri, as we go further on down the line, he's got 41, 37 for George Russell, Fernando Alonso 33, 27 for Hamilton, and Yuki Tsunoda sitting inside the top 10 with 14. Kind of an odd thing there. I wonder if he's going to be able to keep that. Don't usually talk about him inside the top 10.
Very good question.
Yep, we'll find out. Red Bull leads the Constructors' Cup points. I know, everybody's shocked there too. 239 to 187 over Ferrari. McLaren's jumped up to third now with 124. if there is a big surprise there, it is the fact that Mercedes is fourth and well back in fourth. 64 points. They're 60 points behind third. Aston Martin fifth with 42. Then you drop down to V-Carb. They've got 19. Haas F1's got 7. Alpine's off the schneid. They got off the scoreless streak. They got a point. 1. Williams and Sauber remain scoreless on the season to date. And remember earlier this year, race 2 of the Cup Series season to be exact? We were there. We remember it.
We were.
It was Atlanta. Had a 3-wide finish. Daniel Suarez wins the race by tying NASCAR's smallest margin of victory in its history, .002 or 2 1,000ths of a second. Kyle Larson, like a word with you. Kansas was a barn burner of a race. It was good, man. It was real good. Lead changed hands throughout the very close racing. That was just the norm on the day. 7 laps to go. Kyle Busch, he's running on the inside. He's running on the low part of the track, inside the top 5 at the time. He overdrove. Think about this. This is Kyle Busch we're talking about. He overdrove himself because there wasn't anybody around him that influenced this, so he overdrove it. He had to have. Spun himself out and brought out a caution. Well, there were a lot of drivers that were concerned about fuel. Well, you're under caution. You ain't got to worry about fuel no more.
Yep.
A lot of people come down after this long green flag run. Denny Hamlin was leading his teammate. Martin Truex Jr. was tracking him down. We honestly feel like if it had gone green, Martin Truex Jr. would have been your winner if he had the gas.
He would have.
Well, most came down and took 2 tires and gas. Truex and his team went with 4 tires. That dropped them from 2nd to 10th. Hamlin was back out front because, well, the 11 team is just fantastic when it comes to being on pit road. Chris Buescher was beside him for the restart. Kyle Larson 3rd and decided to take the low side right behind Denny Hamlin. Now, I got to give Chris Buescher a great compliment here because he's not the control car. But he timed that thing so well. Denny Hamlin did not get a jump. Chris Buescher was there.
Timing jumps like that takes self-control and execution.
And he did both. He
did both.
He nailed it. Larson did as well. The 17 and the 5 actually sandwiched Hamlin, and, well, Hamlin was done. Led to a 2-man race. Now, Chase Elliott, and I'll give Martin Truex credit. He took those 4 tires and he used them to the best of his ability. He jumped up to 4th. Elliott and Truex tried to make it a 4-car battle, but coming off turn 4 on the final lap, it was Larson and Buescher, and it was the Larson-Buescher show. They got into each other. They dropped down on the apron. They banged into each other again, crossed the finish line in a photo finish. The official timer, after all is said and done, quickly showed the 2 drivers locked in at .000. So now you got to go to the next lineup number. After quick video review, deeper dive into the timing, Larson was declared the winner. The time rounded up to a new NASCAR record for slim margins at .001, 1 1,000th of a second. Officially, you found out that the number to the 10,000th was .0003. That's not going to be an easy one to beat.
I don't understand why they had to round it up, because I recall an Xfinity race in Daytona not all that long ago between Tyler Reddick and Elliott Sadler that was .0004 was the official.
Yeah, it's going to get to the point now where we are going to have to start seeing this on the coverage on television and it show up on the monitors, because we've got monitors that we know of up in the PA booth. We've got monitors up there. Those monitors are going to have to start showing it as well.
They can show it, but it has to be reset to show it.
Yeah, and that's going to have to become the norm.
Yeah, they've got no choice, because if you realize Indycar goes down to the 4th out to the 10,000.
Yeah.
So if Indycar can go to the 10,000, NASCAR can go to the 10,000 as well.
Yeah.
But for closest all-time finishes in stock car, Talladega would like a word.
Yes, we would.
Because I do recall seeing a .0002 in an ARCA race in 2018.
Yeah, go back and look at it. Go back and look it up. It'd be worth it.
Yeah.
Like we said, Larson best Buescher by that slim margin. Elliott was officially 0.059 seconds back, 59 one-thousandths of a second. Martin Truex Jr. was only 75 one-thousandths back at the finish. I mean, this is not as close as what we saw at Atlanta with the 3-wide, but those four in that close of a margin, that's really cool. Denny Hamlin faded to 5th, Christopher Bell 6th, then Alex Bowman, Kyle Busch recovered to finish 8th because he spun out, came down, got tires, and they got him out there and kept him rolling. Noah Gragson, Michael McDowell filled out the top 10. Whew, do we have a deal on Michael McDowell to talk about? Hamlin and William Byron lead the way, 3 wins each, 2 wins for Larson, single-time winners Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, Daniel Suarez, every one of them locked into the playoffs. Our producer, John's favorite driver, Martin Truex Jr., leads those who are in on points. Ryan Blaney, Ty Gibbs, Alex Bowman, Ross Chastain, Chris Buescher, Kyle Busch, Chase Briscoe, and Brad Keselowski fill out the rest of the field of 16 right now. That 2012 Cup champion holding a 5-point lead over Bubba Wallace for that final playoff spot. Last night, Darlington. Weekend's racing got rolling with the Craftsman Truck Series. Buckle up, South Carolina 200. Forget the rest of the country. Matt, What can you tell us about it?
Well, personally, it wasn't. Excuse me. After the rain, 2.5-hour rain delay, kind of killed the racetrack. The race wasn't spectacular to me. It was decent, but it wasn't spectacular. You had Ross Chastain picking up the win. He had a track he was looking at to win for a very long time, since that track put him essentially on the map back in 2019. You had Nick Sanchez coming from, he got credit for the pole, but he did not start there. He started last due to an unapproved adjustment, coming from shotgun to finish 2nd. Ben Rhodes in 3rd, Christian Eckes 4th, Ty Majeski 5th. You had Chase Purdy 6th, Colby Howard in 7th, Taylor Gray 8th, Ty Dillon in 9th, and Tanner Gray finishing out in the top 10. And an interesting, there was a name you recognize I didn't call out. An interesting stat from last night.
Mm-hmm. I know which stat you're going with, too.
In 1,230 National Series starts, for only the 3rd time in his career, Kyle Busch did not complete more than 10 laps in a race.
Mm-hmm. And finished dead last on the day.
After wrecking twice.
Dead last. For those of you that had that on the bingo card, I would like to have a word with you, and we need to go to Vegas.
We're going to play the lottery.
Because I'm here to tell you right now, as we have said many, many times, anytime we ever see Kyle Busch's name on the entry list in a truck series race, we pencil him in as the winner.
And whoever this Enterprise Corporation that was sponsoring him last night, Bravo, Alpha, Mike, Foxtrot, that was the name. BAMF Enterprises.
There you go.
The memes and acronyms were going a little bit over the top last night on social media.
Probably so, yeah, I can imagine that.
Whoever is the owner of that company that wanted to partner up with him,
you got free publicity because of it.
You got free publicity and great marketing out of it.
Yeah, you did.
But the memes were a little over the top.
Probably. But hey, I would say Kyle Busch will be back, and he will next year because he's run all 5 of his allotted races this year. So as we mentioned earlier, Christian Eckes, Corey Heim, 2 wins, Nick Sanchez, Razak Caruth with 1 win each. Nothing different there because Ross Chastain, your watermelon man, is a moonlighter, so he isn't eligible for the playoffs in the Truck Series. So those locked in remains the same. And on points, Ty Majeski, Taylor Gray, Tyler Ankrum, Matt Crafton, Tanner Gray, Ben Rhodes. Ben Rhodes bumping out Grant Enfinger by a rather scant 5 points. Still a long way to go. This morning, Berlin, Tempelhof Airport course, Formula E, I believe, is rolling right now. Race number 1 of the Berlin E-Prix doubleheader weekend, 15 turns, 1.45-mile long course. It's airing on CBS Sports Network, but, well, it's almost impossible to find the CBS Sports Network if you've got regular cable or whatever. So I would say just stay with us and we'll keep you updated on it.
As of right now, lap 11 of 40, they're under full course yellow. Jean-Eric Verne and Stoffel Van Dorn are 1-2.
All right. We'll keep you posted. Later today, Xfinity Series, and the weather will be good for this. All the rain out of the southeastern area is now gone, thankfully. So they should get rolling on time with Crown Royal Purple Bag Project 200 at Darlington. Fox Sports 1 MRN Radio begins 1:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Central Time. 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Time this afternoon. Yeah, they're going to get a little bit of a jump start on it over at Indycar. Gets into the Sancio Grand Prix on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. This is the 14 turns over 2.44 miles. NBC has the coverage of that along with IRN Radio. Alex Palou claimed the pole for the race yesterday. Christian Lundgaard will join him on the front row. Mm-hmm. It's an interesting front row.
It is.
Alex Palou, not really surprised. Christian Lundgaard, nice run. Let's see if you can hold it. Formula E, we mentioned they were in a doubleheader. Sunday's racing kicks off with them, the same Berlin Tempelhof circuit as this morning, same time as well. CBS Sports Network, again, if you can find it. 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time. And then the Cup Series will wrap up the weekend's action with the Goodyear 400 airing on Fox Sports 1 and MRN Radio, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Time. Formula One, the NHRA, taking this weekend off. So with that being noted, we've been kind of waiting. I mean, we've heard rumors upon rumors upon rumors, but the first domino to fall in the Cup Series when it came to silly season, not quite as big as, say, Sir Lewis Hamilton deciding to leave Mercedes for after a dozen years or so with them and going to Ferrari. But this is still right out of left field. Totally unexpected. Next.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. 2 tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
We are back. Welcome into it. I'm Steve West, Matt Nicholson. Producer John Myers with us this weekend. Welcome in, brother. Or welcome back, I guess I should say.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Let's see. As I mentioned before the break, we'd kind of been waiting things to kick up. Silly season in NASCAR. The big domino, first big domino anyway, fell on Wednesday morning. It was announced Michael McDowell leaving Front Row Motorsports. Wow. He announced it, as did Front Row Motorsports, but when Wednesday morning came around, it wasn't immediately let known where he was going. And Matt and I got to texting back and forth when it first got announced, and I was thinking to myself, well, maybe this is one of those deals where contractual obligations state, okay, yeah, we're going to go ahead and announce that we're going to make the move. We can't say where and all of that other stuff just yet. Well, just waited a couple hours, we would have found out, because midday on Wednesday was when the news came down. It was revealed he was moving to Spire Motorsports, take over the number 71 Chevrolet. So that will put him in with his incumbent teammates, Corey LaJoie in the 7, and this year, and potential Rookie of the Year, number 77 driver, Carson Hocevar. McDowell has 2 things that Spire aspires to. Wins. 2021 Daytona 500, and just last season at the Indy Road Course. Thing is, the age of 39, he automatically becomes the elder statesman.
Sure.
So you wonder, why, after being the guy who effectively helped bring Front Row Motorsports out of the cellar, would he move to Spire Motorsports, which has shown flashes but has never claimed to win? I'll give you one aspect of it, and this is from Michael McDowell himself. McDowell noted that effectively he's been on a string of 1-year contracts with Front Row Motorsports.
He has.
That deal he signed with Spire, multi-year. Security. Don't underestimate that.
Security, yes. When you go from a team that has 4 Cup Series wins to a team that has 1 Cup Series win by default.
Yeah.
By default. So in turn, you're taking a below lateral move from a performance standpoint.
Yes.
From a security standpoint and a monetary standpoint, you're taking an upward move.
And here's the other side of it. Okay, and I get it. They got Zane Smith, but Zane Smith, remember, he is on loan
for only 1 year to Spire
from Trackhouse. So this tells us now that Trackhouse is going to start to make moves, which we're going to get back to here in just a second.
This right here is the official first domino to fall that will probably cause the house of cards to collapse.
Oh, sure.
That quick.
But the other side of it is the fact that McDowell does bring something to Spire Motorsports that, and no disrespect to Corey LaJoie, but he brings something that Corey LaJoie doesn't bring.
Wins.
Yeah. And it's not just the winning aspect of it. It's, you do it once and you do it at a track like Daytona, you can kind of consider it a fluke. If you can go out there and do what he did last year on the Indy Road Course, that's no fluke.
Not when you do it in walk-off fashion like he did.
Yeah. I mean, and you think about this year, and 26th in the standings doesn't tell the whole story. Remember, this is a guy who was sitting on the front row for the first 2 races of this year. Think about that qualifying. 2 poles. He's only got 3 top 10 finishes to show for it, but that car, the Front Row Motorsports car, has shown speed. He knows how to wheel a race car and do things with it that can sometimes, and I'm not going to say he can take a 10th place car and make it a 5th place car, but he can take a 10th place car and make it an 8th or 7th place car. Mm-hmm. Michael McDowell does that for you. He's run for Front Row since 2018. 228 of his 477 starts as of last weekend have come with them, along with most of his success. Again, 8 of his 9 top 5s, 35 of his 40 top 10s all came with Front Row Motorsports. And again, like I said, they're standing 26th right now, but I don't think that really tells the whole story, because it's not really the fault of Michael McDowell.
No, it's not. I mean, right now to date, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 top 10 starts. 3 front row starts. 3 top 10s. He's led 73 total laps. Only 4 DNFs, which I think 3 of them was a mechanical issue.
Yeah.
But his average start this year is 12.8 and average finish is 23.7.
Yeah.
If you take away those 3 races where he had mechanical problems,
He might be in the top 20 in the points.
yeah, he's way up there.
So what do we attribute this to?
Which part?
Him moving?
Well, no, not the move itself, but the overall performance that we're seeing there.
Oh, okay.
Ford, they picked up front row and they made Ford has a tier system.
They do.
They have a tier 1, tier 2, and I think they have a tier 3. They moved front row from tier 2 to tier 1, which means you get more factory support, you get more technology to put towards your cars.
Which is a good thing.
Which, yes,
so we're seeing the cars getting better.
They are.
So he's performing better.
Yeah. What they're having a problem with is they're getting the speed out there to be able to go out there, like we know, to qualify, his average starting spot being just slightly better than 13th. Unfortunately, they're not finishing. They're not closing. So what they need to do is start to realize how to put an entire race together. And they haven't got that fully yet. But we are seeing that out of Spire.
Yes.
And with the investment that Spire is making, well, I mean, if you think about really, over the last 7-8 months?
Yeah.
I think that was about the time they got the charter and they bought Kyle Busch Motorsports, was about 7-8 months ago. With the investment that they've made, Chevrolet has started to make that investment into Spire as well, because Chevrolet won't admit it, but yeah, there's a tier system over there as well. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But when they saw how much Spire was willing to put into it, they said, okay, we're going to start back in this operation. They've got 3 charters already. So at this point in time, I don't see why you would make any other changes. You've got Michael McDowell in there, Corey LaJoie they're happy with, and Carson Hocevar. I got to give a lot of credit to that kid. For a rookie, he is certainly not really seeming to be a rookie.
He's essentially taken the 77 car, which was, in a phrase I like to use, was so far in left field, he was out past the left field foul pole.
Yeah, remember, this was the car that they started off with, and they couldn't figure out a driver. We figure they had, in the first, 3 years, and 3 years of 3 times 36, however many that is. In the first, give or take, 150 races, we think they had about 150 different drivers.
It sure seems like it. But now the 77 car is back within the field of play.
Mm-hmm.
Is it all the way there? Not yet. But it's back within the field of play.
Yeah, I mean, again, Carson Hocevar is a rookie, and he is certainly playing beyond his years, if you want to put it that way. He's not racing like a rookie. At some point in time, yeah, he'll have that typical rookie, what the heck happened sort of thing coming. Will it be this weekend? I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But at some point in time, he will. But he is certainly racing above and beyond his years. And for that, I got to give Spire and I got to give Carson Hocevar credit. And he's a guy you're going to have to watch. He is definitely someone to watch.
Well, I would agree.
Michael McDowell set things up. And then the rumor mill came out with the Big Bertha driver and smacked it straight down the fairway and really started this massive blow up of what the heck is going to happen in the future.
And let's put this asterisk disclaimer on this. Some of these,
a lot of this
are fueled by some of said reporters that like to pour gasoline on a match and try to blow it up.
Yeah.
When in turn, at the end of the day, it was nothing more than a spark out of a little handheld lighter.
Sure. We're going to put the disclaimer out here, right now. Don't believe anything you hear or see or read about Stewart-Haas Racing unless Tony Stewart says it himself. That was Tony Stewart at the beginning of the year. Remember those words? We gave them to you here on this show. But there continues to be the rumors of the downsizing of Stewart-Haas Racing, to the point where Fox Sports, Bob Pockris, is now reporting that there are those interested in buying at least one of the Stewart-Haas Racing charters. Those include teams like 2311, not 23 by 1, Trackhouse Racing, Legacy Motor Club, all of which have been rumored. And now we get Front Row Motorsports might be interested in acquiring another charter. Okay.
The last one I don't see.
Again,
Personally. Yeah.
rumor, conjecture.
No, for sure. I don't see Front Row buying another one when they've now got to fill their...
They've got to fill a seat.
They've got to fill their pilot car.
Yeah. But...
God, that was a weird analogy. Their pilot car with a love stop sponsored car.
That's true. Should what we're hearing come to fruition, there's one, maybe two drivers that could come out of this needing a seat. I don't know. Keep in mind, the Stewart-Haas Racing deal with Ford, as we have detailed on the show, runs out at the end of the year. All of this is going on while NASCAR and the teams continue to negotiate the future of the charter agreement, right? But what would Stewart-Haas Racing look like if it, say, sold one of their charters? Well, of the 4 cars that are out there, which is the one that makes the most sense to kind of slide off? It would be the last one added. That was the 41 car. Ryan Preece, he's in the final year of his deal, number 1. Number 2, of the 4 Stewart-Haas Racing drivers who are starting to see a little bit of life, a heartbeat out of that team that last year seemed to have no heartbeat other than Kevin Harvick, Ryan Preece is performing the worst.
Still, much to my surprise,
I will admit to that too.
he actually performed better in the 37 JTG car than he did and has here.
Is it a matter of him pressing to prove that he belongs?
He's pressing too hard.
That's kind of that's
He's
where I was
pressing
going
too
with it.
hard.
Yeah.
But if let me say that again. If 2 of those charters are sold, the absolute largest threat I see to getting at least one of them is Trackhouse.
Sure.
Justin Marks has made it no secret he will spend the money if he has to.
Absolutely.
And I'm pretty sure that 23 part of 2311 has got the money to do so as well.
Yeah, considering they basically just they opened up their brand new racing shop, Speed Air, as they're calling, or Airspeed. Airspeed.
And it has the ability to house 4 cars.
Yeah. So that's scenario 1, selling 1 charter. Let's say they sell 2. Now where do you go? If you think about it, the second one is going to be a little more interesting. You got Chase Briscoe, who's handpicked by Stewart, and that's the 14 car, and that's Tony Stewart's chosen number. Mm-hmm. Josh Berry was a celebrated signing in the offseason to take over the 4 car from one Kevin Harvick. But so you think, okay, well, those 2 are probably the most logical ones, right? Well, think about who's the hottest hand right now out of the Stewart-Haas Racing camp.
That would be the 10 car.
Chase Noah Gragson. So now you've got yourself into an odd situation. Now, again, this is a rumor mill situation. Don't fall into the trap. That's why we're here. Rumors are just that. They're rumors. I will say this. We're probably not going to see any actual movement on this until NASCAR and the teams figure out the charter agreement and where it's going to go beyond this year.
True.
Okay.
Because they are dragging their feet.
They are. And it's sad that they're doing it, and I don't know why they're doing it this way. It's dragging this whole process out. The teams are getting frustrated. They've all said it. But, yeah, I know if you're Trackhouse, if you're 23, heck, if you're Front Row Motorsports and you've got a chance to go out and buy a charter and you're honestly thinking about expanding from a second to a third or a third to a 4th car, whatever it is, or heck, even if you're looking to expand out from a single car team into a multiple car team, the thought that a charter, maybe 2, might be available, is very attractive. But the precedent was set last year when Spire went out and gave Live Fast Motorsports $40 million for 1 charter.
Yep. Thanks, inflation. Said scenario, and it's maybe a little bit of foreshadowing of scenarios here.
Okay.
Maybe 41 car be the first one to go.
Yeah, almost guaranteed.
I see that charter going to Trackhouse.
I could see that.
I could see that going to Trackhouse.
Sure, easily.
There's your third charter to put Zane Smith in the car.
Yes.
All right.
They got to figure out what to do with him anyway. That would make sense.
All right. I could if he stays on pace and continues to uptick. Let's call it that right there. It ain't gonna be this quick. It could be a small uptick, and he progresses throughout the entire year. SVG will go in a collaboration with Kaulig, which they're already doing now.
Sure.
SVG,
Wouldn't be that big of a change.
SVG will be in the 16, maybe 31. He'll be in one of the two Kaulig cars next year,
I could see that.
full time. All right. Charter number 3. I'm going to say charter number 2. Excuse me.
Yeah. Assuming that Stewart Haas sells 2 charters.
I'm going to say charter number 2 is going to be the 14 car. Front row would probably absorb car 14. Briscoe stays as is. They just absorb the team.
Okay.
I could see that
That'd be
happen.
an interesting way of doing it.
That car number stays with Ford. They get the third team. Happy-go-lucky. Everybody's singing Kumbaya. Here you go.
Mm-hmm.
Who else does that leave? Barry and Gregson.
Yep.
Where did Barry and Gregson come from? I'm not even counting last year for Gregson because that was the absolute fluke. That was a fluke.
Debacle and
That was a fluke.
a comedy of errors.
A little team we like to call Junior Motorsports.
They continue to talk and talk and talk about getting into the Cup Series.
They take car 4, car 10, and it's ESR, SER, whatever you want to call it. Earnhardt Stewart.
Yeah. Earnhardt Stewart Earnhardt.
Stewart Earnhardt Haas, SHE, She Racing, Stewart Haas Earnhardt, whatever you want to call it. Stewart's back with General Motors.
Which GM would love.
Yeah, because you realize one thing, he's been awfully quiet about Ford, even though his relationship with Dodge and Stellantis is picking way up because of his drag racing exploits.
But let's face it, Stellantis has made it pretty clear they have no intention of putting Dodge back in NASCAR.
Right.
At least not anytime too soon. So
because
Bummer.
said precedent has been set that you can drive and be ownership in another team and still have something in another team as well. See Denny Hamlin in 2311 and Joe Gibbs Racing.
Mm-hmm.
Said precedent has been set.
Sure.
So that scenario, I could see it playing out. And you can timestamp this at 8:39 a.m. on May the 11th, 2024. Timestamp it. Because if this happens, somebody's going to play the lottery and you're looking at him and you're to hear his voice.
Yeah, I like it. Let's finish out Cup Series news here before we go to break. We talked about the charter negotiations. Adam Stern of Sports Business Daily got into talking about that. Reported that the teams are seeking 4 things in a new agreement. That the teams would split 45% of the traditional media revenue, meaning TV, radio, and now streaming. Secondly, make the charters permanent. And the third biggest one would be that 1/3 of all revenue generated by NASCAR would go to the teams. Finally, they want a little bit of a greater say over the actions that NASCAR takes when it comes to things like the rule book. In other words, they want to be consulted before a rule book change is made. Because NASCAR, as we know, will change a rule right in the middle of the season and just announce it on a random Tuesday because of what they saw the previous week or a week and a half ago in a race on a Sunday. The teams would like a little bit more consulting power in that. Hey, give us a call. Let us know. Instead of just going, hey, here's the new rule, whether you like it or not.
Yep.
Most of this stuff, I think, is probably going to be happening. I mean, the amount of money that the teams will get out of the new monetary split, that's really kind of been coming. We've seen that coming. And NASCAR said, yeah, we're willing to do that. The rule book thing, I don't know if it's a deal breaker, but either way. And making the charters permanent. There's one guy specifically that is a driving force behind making these charters permanent. It's not Joe Gibbs. It's not Tony Stewart. It's not Richard Childress. It's not Roger Penske.
That would be James Dennis Allen Hamlin.
And he's being pushed by his co-owner. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Jordan is pushing for these things to be permanent.
Arguably.
How in the world do you take one of, if not the biggest names in sports over the last 20, 30 years and say no? How do you do that?
You don't.
So we'll find out.
You don't.
Speaking of 2311, they've announced they're going to put a third car out on the track for the Nashville Superspeedway race featuring the number 50 on the side, and Mobil 1 is the sponsor. Corey Heim will be the driver of this car, and this is a pretty sharp-looking car, I got to admit. Heim is full-time for Tricon Garage in the Craftsman Truck Series. This will mark his third Cup Series start this year, though. He's filled in for Eric Jones, Legacy MC number 33 at Dover in Kansas. He's also been getting part-time in the Xfinity Series scheduled with Sam Hunt Racing. Folks, Corey Heim is on the fast track. He will be in the Cup Series.
He's climbing.
Very, very soon.
Yep.
And then we got the fan vote for next weekend's All-Star race. One driver, otherwise not eligible, will get into the big event because the fans voted him in. That fan voting going on right now at NASCAR.com. The site has revealed the top 10 vote getters, as usual, giving it to us in alphabetical order. They are Josh Berry, Alex Bowman. The fact that his name is on the list as not already into the All-Star race is probably the biggest surprise there.
Sure.
Josh Berry, Alex Bowman, Chase Briscoe, Ty Gibbs, Noah Gragson, Justin Haley, Carson Hocevar, Eric Jones, Corey LaJoie, and Bubba Wallace. We don't know what order. They won't tell us that. But you have until, what is it, Friday?
Yes.
Got until Friday to place your vote. Let people know what you think. I do find it interesting 3 of the 4 SHR cars are noted in there. Guess we'll find out. We'll keep you updated and we'll let you know all about it next week, of course. In the meantime, we got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to switch our attention to the biggest story from last week in IndyCar.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. only, fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Yeah, we are. Mother's Day weekend. Thank you very much for joining us, spending a little bit of time with us this morning. I'm Steve West, along with Matt Nicholson, producer John, with us as well. So let's get into some IndyCar news, shall we? And this leads off with really following up on what was the biggest story of last week, that push-to-pass situation at Team Penske that got to the attention of IndyCar and caused major penalties to Scott McLaughlin and, most importantly, Joseph Newgarden because he got a win strip from him from the beginning of the year. Excuse me. Well, Team Penske followed it up by saying, you know what? We see you, IndyCar, and we're going to add into the pot by several people within the organization getting suspended for multiple races. Mostly those that team owner Roger Penske deems the most responsible for it, and first and foremost amongst them, the team president, Tim Cindric. That's a statement right there, which I got to give Roger Penske for credit for. Also, Tim Cindric is the race strategist for the two-car of Joseph Newgarden, so that's why. Also suspended, two-car managing director Ron Rzuski. Then you got two-car race engineer Luke Mason and the assistant engineer Robbie Atkinson. All three will miss this month in Indianapolis. They're missing this weekend's race on the road course. They're going to miss the Indy 500, which that may be an even bigger part of this story. Mm-hmm. Because it's Roger Penske. He could have done anything he wanted to with this team. He said, I understand how important this is to Team Penske and to IndyCar as a whole, but I'm not going to delay the suspensions. That's a statement.
Huge.
The funny thing is that Penske only announced suspensions for the two-car. The three-car Scott McLaughlin, penalized by IndyCar, no suspensions. I find that an interesting.
That one is interesting.
All of this has to do with the overuse of the push-to-pass system. Again, the team says that they made a mistake by leaving the preseason testing push-to-pass system on the car, which allows you unlimited number. We dealt with that last week on the show. Go back and find it. It is interesting to note.
Yeah.
Speaking of going back and checking it out, you might have noted that we did not go through our general ritual of rating the throwback paint schemes at Darlington. There's a reason for that. We actually did do that during our Crossed Flags podcast on Wednesday. So if you haven't seen Wednesday's podcast, Crossed Flags, we invite you to go back and check it out. Mm-hmm. Arrow McLaren, the other big news of the last, 2-3 weeks, deciding to drop David Malukas before he actually ever got into a race for him. That left the team scrambling to fill the seat for the remainder of the year. They've used two drivers to fill that task so far this year. One of those, Formula 2 champion Teo Pourchaire, who is missing one aspect of his racing experience to be able to fill out the entire year, and that was oval track experience. The other guy was Callum Ilott, and we told you that he wasn't going to be able to do it because as the year began, he knew that he was only going to be put into a car for select races throughout the course of the year anyway, so he made other arrangements to go racing. And some of those schedules conflicted with IndyCar. So he can't do it all year either. Well, to kind of help alleviate the situation, Teo Pourchaire on Monday of this week got his first IndyCar oval test in at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway. With what he has been able to do, he was cleared to be behind the wheel for the oval tracks after the Indy 500. For a driver who comes from the Formula One feeder ladder and doesn't deal with oval tracks as a general rule, he was asked afterward how he felt after having pulled 110 laps on the 1.25 mile track, dodging raindrops the whole time. He said, quote, I'm really tired mentally as well because it's going super quick and you don't want to do a mistake on a track like this. If you do a small mistake, you can end up in the wall, and we all know that ending up in the wall in an oval is really dangerous, but I did enjoy it. It's been a pretty good day. The pace was good. For a guy who has really never been on an oval track to state, I enjoyed it, that's saying something because there seems to be this almost abnormal fear.
That's a cover-up. He's saying that's a cover-up.
But, yeah, I mean, it seems like it's an almost abnormal fear amongst drivers that come out of the Formula One series about oval tracks.
You can't. to my European brethren that race.
Somehow I knew he'd have a comment.
It is just as dangerous running on a road course or a street course than it is an oval.
Yeah.
So stop with the, but I enjoyed it. The pace is good. But you say that while covering up, I'm really tired mentally. If you make a mistake, you can end up in a wall, and that's really dangerous.
In other words, you're overthinking it. You know how to drive? Drive.
Let me say it this way. When you cinch that helmet strap right across your chin right here, that's what I'm on the video to YouTube Live doing. You cinch it across that chin of yours. You pull that left shoulder strap down. You pull that right shoulder strap down. Said lap belts, said crotch strap, and you latch it. If you have any remorse or fear whatsoever, get your keister out of the seat.
Yeah.
You have no business sitting in a car.
I go back to, and this does work appropriately very much in that movie, but it also works really with almost literally every other sport on the planet. There's a portion of the movie in Bull Durham where Kevin Costner's character of Crash Davis is standing in the batter's box and he starts thinking about anything under the planet, most notably Annie. And suddenly he says, get out of the box, get out of your head, get out of the box, call time. So he finally realizes, call time. Get out of your head. Stop overthinking it. Get in the car, do what you do. You drive a race car for a living. It doesn't matter whether it's a road course or street course or an oval track. It's a race car. You're a driver. Get out of your head. Go drive the car.
Pretty sure I think it was either Mark Martin or it may have been David Stremme. One of the two, or it may have been both. I can't remember exactly, but I've heard a quote is this right here. If you have 1 ounce of fear within your mind, do not kick your right foot over that door flange.
There you go. After all of those efforts to clear himself for oval track races, again, other than the Indy 500, looks like he's going to be pretty good because, well, let's deal with the Indy 500 first. He's a rookie. He's never raced the Indy 500. He'd have to go through rookie orientation. You're already in the month of May. That ship has sailed.
Yep.
Can't do rookie orientation. So he will not drive the Indy 500. But past the Indy 500, Porsche is going to be the driver for Arrow McLaren Racing for the rest of the year. Callum Ilott, who raced the car, again, the first 2 races of the year, tested for them for the Indy 500. He is expected to be the guy in the car for the Indy 500. We'll find out officially really tomorrow, because once we get past the road course race today, everything becomes about the Indy 500.
Take the barriers down and turn them loose.
That's it. To no one's surprise, I'm sure this year's Indy 500 is going to be paced by a Chevrolet Corvette. Specifically, it is what they're calling the E-Ray 3LZ edition. Can't we just call this thing something else? I don't know. Anyway, it is the first electrified Corvette ever produced. It's a hybrid model. Still comes with that big old honking 6.2-liter V8 with an electric motor pairing that comes standard with all-wheel drive. Reportedly will now make a 0 to 60 run in 2.5 seconds and zip through the quarter mile in 10.5. I guess that'll work. With this announcement, the all-white with black accented Corvette as the 2024 pace car marks the 35th time since 1948 that Chevrolet provides the pace car, and since 1978 alone, the 21st time that it will be a Corvette. You can see the car right now on CRN Live on YouTube. It's strangely plain. Again, it is all white with literally a couple of black accents and a big Indy 500 logo on it. Okay. Here's the thing. If they wanted to give it to me, I'd still take it. Racer.com. Racer.com is interesting because they probably have been closer to Indycars dealing with their own thoughts of having a charter system similar to NASCAR's than anybody else.
Yep.
And they reported just, what was it? I think yesterday, on 2 new details of the planned charter proposal set to go to teams later this year. Again, this is the proposal. It has to be voted on and approved by a majority of the teams. So far, so good. The first one is that it will cover 25 of the 27 full-time cars that are running this year. I don't see a problem with that.
Nope.
I also don't see a problem with this because Bump Day would still be a significant date because while the 25 charters would guarantee those 25 cars had a start, the exception is the Indy 500.
Yes, for the love of humanity, do not touch this format.
So let me re-explain it just to make sure you understand what we're talking about. This year, assuming that the charter system was in place for 2024, we've got 17 races. 16, and of course your crown jewel, the Indy 500. The Indy 500 stands apart already because the Indy 500 has room for 33 starters. We will have 34 cars trying to get into it. This year, anybody, and we saw this, I think it was last year with Graham Rahal. Anybody. Doesn't matter whether you're the champion from last year, 6-time champion Scott Dixon, or it doesn't matter. If you don't make it in on speed, you don't start the race. So Bump Day is a really cool thing because anybody can find themselves outside looking in, right? They're stating that wouldn't change. So if the charter system came in, 25 guaranteed starting spots for 16 of the 17 races, the Indy 500 is excluded. Perfect.
Thank you.
That was Penske Entertainment, owners of the Indianapolis or IndyCar series in Indianapolis Motor Speedway, listening to the fans who said they wanted to keep the Indy 500 that separate and that special. Thank you for listening to the fans. Well, that leads to the bigger question. And this was one that nixed a previous proposal for the charter system from Penske Entertainment. Seems that the first proposal that Penske Entertainment gave to the teams would have made them pay for their charters up front. Reports had them wanting to raise about $20 million in all. Every single team rejected that flatly, which is why we're going through this proposal process. So Penske Entertainment listened, realized that was a no-go. They've trashed the idea of making them pay for the initial charter.
$20 million per charter or $20 million total for all the charters?
I was led to believe $20 million for all the charters. But either way, the team said, we're not going to pay up front for it. You want to make the charter system, give us the charter. That's what NASCAR did.
Right.
NASCAR said, we're going to give you the charter up front. What you do with it after that, market price.
That makes sense because why would you have a team pay for a charter that may be worth the entire value of your entire operation?
Number one. And number two, why are you going to make them pay for a charter that they earned?
There you go.
That was NASCAR's way of looking at it when it came to doling out the charters in the first place. You earned it based upon the skeleton of the rules. In this case, the skeleton of the rules from Penske Entertainment says if you have been over the last couple of years within the top 5 and you have been a ride that's been out there for a few years, then you get a charter. You're top 25. Why then are you going to tell them, okay, you earned it on this level, but now you got to pay me? Nope. And that's why they said no. So it looks like right now this proposal is going to help out the fans with what they want, and on the second part, help out the teams with what they were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Might just see one for next year. We'll see. Mm-hmm. There's a group out there called Friends of Laguna Seca. They're set to take over the operations of the famed California road course, and they have named veteran racer or a person from a veteran in the racing world, I guess I should say, Lori Eberhardt as their CEO. Ross Merrill, who's the president of the group, said, quote, Lori brings a wealth of legality, sports, and entertainment industry experience and expertise to FLS. Her experience comes via NASCAR, mostly with Speedway Motorsports Incorporated, where she was most recently at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. She led the daily operations there. She was also the general counsel for the track, filled other roles in the dozen years there. Before Charlotte, she worked at both Michigan Speedway and Richmond Raceway. She joins a group that'll take over the day-to-day operations at Laguna Seca, plans beginning with a thorough assessment, she says, of the track and all its amenities for the fans and race participants. They have an eye towards making improvements in an attempt to put the track on top of the list of America's premier road courses. This is one of the more revered road courses that's out there in the United States, mostly due to that infamous corkscrew.
Yep.
But would you call it top-tier road courses in America? I might put COTA there.
It's close.
I might put COTA there. I might put Road America up there.
If you had a tier of road courses in top 5 for me,
And I'm certainly putting Barber in it.
Barber, COTA, Road America, I'm going to say Long Beach,
Okay.
and I would put Laguna Seca up there.
Would you? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they want to try and make it V1A. All right.
And you can't blame them.
Go look at COTA. There's your benchmark, in my opinion. Go look at COTA. Come here to Barber.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back. Four tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back in. Hour number 2 underway. We appreciate you sticking around with us here, or if you're just now joining us, hey, where you been? We've been on the air for an hour. We'll let you know that if you're listening on our flagship station, then we are going to join not Xfinity, Cup Series qualifying in progress right after we're done. So be prepared for that. If you're watching us on CRN Live on YouTube, well, we'll let you figure out how to find qualifying on your own. I'm sure you can handle it. We want to take a quick look at Formula E, see what's going on over there. They got started right about the same time we did, so we promised we'd keep you updated on it.
It'll load up. Here we go.
Yeah, there's that.
Close. Live. Here we go.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
6 laps added. They're at the end.
Oh, okay.
Nick Cassidy's your leader
Okay.
right now.
All right. We'll keep an eye on it and probably come back to it here once we come back from our break here, our next break. Xfinity Series is where we're going to, though, right now, and taking us back to that race at Richmond about a month ago. You might remember this whole situation when Joey Gase got spun, hit the wall, ended up ripping the rear bumper off of his number 35 and tossed it onto the hood of Dawson Cram. And for that, Joey Gase got fined $5,000 for violating the safety rules. Well, Gase appealed the decision. We pretty much said, yeah, we don't understand why he's appealing it, but hey, it's $5,000, so why don't you just go ahead and do it that? When the appeals panel heard both sides, predictably they upheld the fine. Said of Gase, quote, NASCAR was correct in ruling that driver Joey Gase put himself in a dangerous position on the racetrack. He went and ripped the back bumper off the car, walked down the track with it, and threw it onto the hood of a car. Yeah, he pretty much did. Gase does have one more appeal open to him, and he hasn't announced whether or not he'll take that road or pay the fine. I get the funny feeling he'll probably pay the fine because I doubt seriously the single appellate final arbiter would change his mind.
I mean, you walked onto the racetrack.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. You did it. It's on video.
I'm appealing it. Sorry.
Good luck.
Good luck with that, buddy.
Junior Motorsports has announced they're set to expand out the number of races that Carson Guapo will get in their 88 Star Car this year. He's actually going to get 6 more races than was initially planned, and it starts this weekend at Darlington. He's also going to race New Hampshire, Indianapolis, Michigan, the second Darlington race, and then he'll be back in the car when we get to Talladega in the fall, and Clariance Technologies has signed on to be the sponsor for those 6 races, all 6 of them. Good job. Speaking of sponsors, Natalie Decker and DGM Racing, we got a picture about to be shown on CRN Live on YouTube showing this one. Working up a chance to get her into a second Xfinity start of this year. She actually qualified for the season opener at Daytona, led 7 laps, finished 18th. Now DGM Racing is going to put her in the 92 Chevrolet. She'll attempt to qualify for the race at Charlotte at the end of this month. Sponsorship from Bikini Zone, which apparently is only available at Walmart. You'll be able to see that car. That car's bright. Thanks to Natalie Decker's social media for the picture.
Yep.
And then there's Landon Castle, who's set to be about $25,000 poorer on because of a May the 3rd court order. This is all related to lawsuits from the failed cryptocurrency called Voyager Digital, which was a sponsor on his number 10 Xfinity Series car, as you'll find on CRN Live on YouTube here in a moment. Castle's one of 3 U.S. sports figures that's actually named in this suit. The total that the trio is going to be paying out to the customers who bought into and then lost their investments, they say, because of Landon Castle and these people's particular backing of it or being spokespeople for it, $2.42 million. A guy that Matt and I know quite well, and a name that producer John knows too. Former NFL player Rob Gronkowski is actually going to be paying out the most. He's got to pay about $1.9 million in this. Current NBA player Victor Oladipo's up next. He's got about $500,000 in total, and then Landon Castle with $25,000. Hopefully he didn't take that out of Voyager cryptocurrency.
Yeah, need to.
Let's see. To the Craftsman Truck Series, where Connor Mosack, no stranger to stock car racing, having raced in both ARCA and NASCAR back in 2021, but most of his stock car experiences come from late models. He's also been running SCCA Trans Am competition. Well, now he's 25 years old. Mosack's set to get another chance at NASCAR because Spire Motorsports, haven't we been talking about them a good bit?
A little bit.
They've signed him to run several Truck Series races through the end of this year. First of those races last weekend at Kansas. They also plan to put him in the number 7 Chevrolet Silverado at Charlotte later this month, Pocono in July, back at Kansas in September, and then Homestead, Miami in October. When you look at this particular list here, does this tell you he's got a specific strength at those particular kinds of tracks or what? Kansas and Charlotte are, Kansas, Charlotte, Homestead, Miami, they're all 1.5 miles. Pocono's kind of the outlier there.
He's stronger. He's stronger on road courses. That's why he's getting a lot of Xfinity starts on road courses this year, too.
And a lot of people say the Pocono drives a little bit like a road course because of the way that the turns are all different.
It's hard to say. With these tracks right here, it seems like he may be just filling the schedule out for them.
Okay.
Seems like.
All right. Kyle Busch Motorsports. Remember them? They officially dropped their lawsuit against Rev Racing, means the two sides probably came to a settlement out of court. The lawsuit filed back in mid-February had Kyle Busch Motorsports seeking $325,000 plus interest and attorney's fees over their claim of unpaid debts related to the alliance between the two teams just last year. It was an agreement that did put Nick Sanchez into a Kyle Busch Motorsports truck under the Rev Racing name, which they said for a agreed-upon total of $2.9 million over the course of the year. Missed a check? Forgot to put it in the mail? Didn't sign it? I don't know.
Who knew?
Whatever it was. Suit's over. Faction 46 team. We haven't talked about them in a little while, and probably it's because they haven't really liked how their 2024 season has begun. So for the rest of the year, at least, or at least it appears for the rest of the year, they've made a change for driver Thad Moffitt, and they have taken Doug George off of the war wagon as the crew chief and replaced him with a gentleman by the name of Steve Gassman. That's effective as of last weekend at Kansas. The 46 truck is 26th in the Craftsman Truck Series points, 0 top 5s, 0 top 10s on the year so far.
That truck is stupid slow.
Is it just the crew chief?
I think it's a little more than a crew chief.
Okay. We'll find out. ThorSport Racing, speaking of changing crew chiefs, has swapped crew chiefs. They've made a trade. And it's for 2 of their entries. The 99 of Bed Rhodes, the 13 of Jake Garcia, effective as of last night. Doug Randolph becomes the head of the 99. Then you got Rich Lushes, who is another veteran crew chief, along with Doug. They just go from one to the other. Lushes takes over calling the shots on the 13. The team statement said not only did the crew chiefs for the 2 trucks change, so did their lead engineers.
And both trucks woke up last night. Both of them woke up.
On the other hand, Thad Moffitt's still asleep. I'm just saying. The statement went further on to say that they wanted to make the changes now, effective this weekend at Darlington, quote, to strengthen our program for the remainder of this season. These adjustments offer new opportunities and signal our proactive approach to progress. The move, again, straight trade from one truck to the other. Nobody was let go, so that's the good news there. But the bad news is can it work? Well, if it's based upon what we saw last night, apparently. Then there's Rackley War Racing, who made the rather weird move, and I get it, but we talked about it at the end of last year. Matt DiBenedetto said, at the end of 2023 season, I'm going to move on. I'm going to start seeking out different opportunities. Rackley War turned around and said, oh, yeah? Watch this. You're not racing the last, 2-3 races of the year, whatever it was for us?
Last 3, yep.
Yeah. Then they turn around and they put Ty Dillon in their truck. Ty Dillon last night finally claimed his first top 10 with the team.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the number 25 truck. That's the full-time one. They're about to pair him with an 18-year-old kid out of Tennessee by the name of Dawson Sutton by putting him in a number 26 truck. This will mark his debut in the series. You see the kid right there. That is courtesy of Rackley War's social media. Sutton uses the number 26 in his late model exploits, so he at least gets to keep the number. It also doesn't hurt that his dad, Curtis Sutton, is Rackley War's CEO.
And co-team owner.
Sure. Curtis said of his son, quote, when I became an owner in Rackley War, I defaulted to my business partner, Willie Allen, for all the driver advice and the coaching for Dawson. He was 16 years old then, and I told him he had 2 years to show me he could be competitive in a race car. Took that to heart. He's done an incredible job improving himself, working with Joe Ryan and Ron Hornaday Jr. The younger Sutton got into U.S. Legends cars, his first actual racing experience, and then with Willie Allen as his mentor, moved into pro late models. racing all around the Southeast, claimed 2 wins and a top 5 at the Snowflake 100, the lead into the Snowball Derby. That all happened in 2023. This year, he's running a late model on a full-time basis for Rackley War. And in just over his year, 4 pole positions to go with those 2 wins and 16 top 5s. So he's showing that he's got the ability to handle the car.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're going from a late model to a truck.
Not going to be all that drastic of a difference.
Okay.
Not all that drastic of a difference because the late models that he's running technically has a little more horsepower than trucks do. So he's used to it.
Okay.
So kid's a good little wheel man. He should be okay.
All right. I guess we'll find out as we go throughout the course of the year. When we come back, we're going to go back to open wheel racing. I want to talk about an eventful weekend for Haas F1 last weekend in Miami. We'll talk about it. It was better for one driver than the other. We'll let you figure out which driver was which, or we'll just tell you about it next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. To the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back in. Switching our attention over to Formula One here. And last weekend they were in Miami. This weekend they're off before they head over to Europe. was an eventful weekend for Haas F1. Nico Hülkenberg continuing to show well. Claimed 2 points. Got a 7th place finish in the Saturday sprint. That was the good. Here's the bad. And the ugly. Kevin Magnussen. Kevin was keeping pace with Hülkenberg in that sprint race on Saturday, but he was kind of falling back into the clutches of those trailing him, so he did what he did earlier on this year. Basically, he started to defend. Really, if only to slow down those who were catching up to him to try and help Hülkenberg score those points that he did. In the process, he got hit with time penalties. 3 of them for overdriving. 35 seconds in time penalties in all. And then on Sunday, got penalized again because he caused a collision with the Williams of Logan Sargent, of which the race steward said, quote, "It was clear that the car 20, Kevin Magnussen's, did not have its front axle in that position such that it was entitled to room in that corner. Further, if this is looked at purely as an overtaking on the inside of the turn 3, car 20 would also not have had the right to the corner by the standards of an inside overtake. Car 20, therefore, wholly to blame for the collision that occurred." It's basically saying, hey, you weren't in the proper position. You're at fault. It's F1 speak. What do you want? So after getting penalties on Saturday,
mighty.
I know, quite flowery language. After getting the penalties on Saturday and another penalty on Sunday, the result was they assessed 2 points to his F1 super license, and now he's got 10. That puts him on some pretty dangerous ground. Because if he accrues 12 in a year, he has to sit out a race. And none of the 10 points that he currently has is slated to fall off until April of next year.
Oops.
Dude's on thin ice.
I think he's driving like he don't care because he knows he's probably not coming back to Haas next year.
That's what you and I talked about last week. We were looking at this situation because the fact that Nico Hülkenberg is already signed. He's going to Sauber next year. Their final year known as Sauber because in 2026 they become Audi, right? It appears, and we're here to tell you right now, the guy who's over there looking at Kevin Magnussen and going, can't wait for you to figure out whether or not you're going to get those 2 penalty points and you're going to be suspended for a race because he can't wait to get back into a race car again is Oliver Behrman, who is already filled in because, remember, appendicitis from earlier this year from Carlos Sainz and finished 7th in his debut. Right now, the leader in the clubhouse to be signed to fill the seat that is currently occupied by Nico Hülkenberg is one Oliver Behrman. You and I have said, why wouldn't you go ahead and make a change now? Because it already looks like at least one and maybe both of the drivers that are currently running for Sauber are going to find themselves gone. And that means you got a chance to go out there and get maybe a really, really good veteran in a Valtteri Bottas who has raced for a top-level team like Mercedes in the past. Why wouldn't you do that? No disrespect. Sorry, Kevin Magnussen. You've done great for us, but in the end, you're just not performing the way that we need you to. And in the end, it's got to be about performance.
It's got to be something. I mean, because something's got to pick Haas up. And you've got to. I said this last week. It's not going to hurt any way whatsoever to pair Oliver Behrman, which I'm going to timestamp that one at 9:25. Go get Bottas.
Sure.
Put Behrman with Bottas. Call them the Killer Bees, for all I care.
I like that. Actually.
And just build your team from there.
Mm-hmm.
And let Valtteri Bottas go out on his own terms.
Because here's the thing. We talked about this last week as well. The whole situation that the U.S. Congress sending a letter. Pardon me as I try and fix something here. U.S. Congress sending a letter to Formula One management and Liberty Media basically saying, hey, listen, we're honestly and kind of looking into this and thinking there might be antitrust allegations or at least antitrust ramifications based upon you guys not bringing in Andretti Global because we think you're trying actually to trade unfairly. It's something that we talked on this show last week with Matt Murphy about too. If you missed the last segment of last weekend's show, go back a week on YouTube after we're done and go back and look at it because we really did get quite in depth into that. Number two, honestly, everyone on this show, all three of us, really truly believes Formula One's running scared that Andretti Global is going to walk in and do much better and be competitive for wins almost right off the bat. Because if we know one thing about Michael Andretti, it is he does not suffer losing well. Look at what he did after last year in IndyCar when they didn't claim a win, and he effectively went through and changed just about everything he could.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to mess with a team that's not winning, especially at the level of Formula One where he had to pay $200 million just to get in.
Right.
He's already got himself a European headquarters in Silverstone, England, which is staffed by about 80 people. And he's promising he's going to get teams' cars into Formula 3 and Formula 2 and start building this team for the long term.
Mm-hmm.
All of this stuff is a shot across the bow to Haas F1, who has been the lone American-owned team in Formula 1. Now, all of a sudden, you've got a second American-owned team coming in that has an American power unit coming with it, and Andretti's promising to have an American-born driver in one of the two cars. You want to give people in the United States something to root for? That's it. They want to like Haas F1. I see more Haas F1 shirts, hats, and everything whenever they show pictures of the crowds at Miami and COTA and last year in Vegas than any place else on the planet. We want to support the American-owned team, but they're not performing. Get Andretti Global in there and watch how many shirts and hats suddenly appear with Andretti Global's logo and the names of the drivers. This is the shot across the bow to Haas F1.
Andretti Global will build a Walmart at every track to go sell their merchandise.
Mm-hmm. And they'll sell out in the United States. I guarantee it. So Haas F1, you're on notice. If you're serious about being in Formula One, and you've been in it since 2016, you're coming up on a decade, you might as well say you're pretty serious about it. Show it. Put the right drivers in the car. If you're going to get Oliver Behrman, fine. If you're that sold on him as your number one draft pick, so to speak, do it. But find a driver out there who's going to be able to be the proper mentor for him. And I'm sorry, Kevin Magnussen ain't it.
Nope. Not at all.
Remember us talking at the beginning of the show, if you were there with us, that Lando Norris got his first win? Yeah, he did. The win by Lando Norris means he claimed his first win in his 110th start in the series. He's now tied for 8th in the most number of races before claiming his first win. He's tied with Giancarlo Fisichella. There's a name I like to say. Can't get it out on my first shot, but hey, I'd like to say it anyway.
Giancarlo Fisichella.
Indeed. For the record, by the way, the most number of races before getting their first win belongs to another current F1 driver, Sergio Perez. He had to wait until his 190th start before he got his first win. That happened back in 2020 at the Sakir Grand Prix when he was driving for what was then Racing Point. It's, of course, now Aston Martin. And one more note on Formula One here. Miami Grand Prix. It is now officially the largest U.S. television audience grabber in Formula One's history. 3.1 million people tuned into the Sky Sports broadcast that was on ABC. The best, by the way, the inaugural Miami Grand Prix from 2022. That pulled in 2.6 million viewers. Last year, it dropped down to 2.1. Not sure why, 100%, but hey, whatever.
I don't know.
For those who are wondering, yes, it beat NASCAR. It beat the Cup Series, which is generally the king of motorsports here in the United States. But there's a reason. There are two reasons, actually. Number one, ABC versus Fox Sports 1. So the reach of ABC versus the reach of Fox Sports 1, number one. Number two, Cup Series got delayed by 3 hours because of rain. Remember that?
That'll be a big difference of it right there.
And NASCAR still pulled in about 2.5. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
I want to check on Formula E here real quick, and let's see. They should be done by now, I would think.
They're way done.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and give you those final tallies. And again, this is race 1 in Berlin of a weekend doubleheader. wherever it went.
Yeah, where did it go? Here we go. Berlin. Here we go. Cassidy, Vern, and Roland was your podium.
Okay.
Nick Cassidy being your winner.
Okay. Who filled out the top 10? We might as well go ahead and run it down because that's what we usually do.
Mitch Evans, Pascal Wehrlein, Antonio Felix da Costa, Stoffel Van Dorn, Eduardo Mortara, and Sasha Finistraz.
Good run
and
for Sasha.
Taylor Bernard, top 10.
Okay. Taylor Bernard's kind of a fill-in. We'll talk about him in a bit. Let's head back to NASCAR here and just kind of an overview here, because for those who have been wondering what was going to happen with Dale Earnhardt Jr., we finally have found out. Dale Earnhardt Jr. has been signed officially and will be part of the new Amazon Prime TNT Sports section of the Cup Series coverage beginning next year. Before the season began, Jr. let it be known he didn't have a deal with NBC for this season, and that probably got a few people upset. Speculation began kind of running rampant about what might happen. A lot of it seemed unlikely with the signing of Kevin Harvick that Fox Sports might pursue him, and sure enough, they didn't. So NBC, could they re-up for him? Could Amazon and/or TNT come in? Could CW pull a coup and maybe get him for their Xfinity Series coverage that officially begins later this year? Well, Dale is going to be in the booth at TNT Sports, TNT specifically welcoming him, but there's a whole lot more to this. This is a multi-layered thing here, right? Dale Jr. is going to be in the booth for race analysis and color commentary for at least the 5 races that TNT gets, but it's expected he'll also be part of the broadcast team for the 5 races on Amazon Prime in the middle of the year. TNT is also set to cover all practice and qualifying sessions for the Cup Series during the NBC portion of the schedule, the last 14 races of next year. And it's thought that if he's part of the Amazon team as well, since they will have, say for the Daytona 500, all the practice and qualifying sessions for the first part of the year, again, say for the Daytona 500 that Fox Sports portion of the schedule has, that he'll probably be on Amazon Prime's coverage for that as well.
He will, and if trends that I've seen on social media come to pass, your lead play-by-play guy is going to be Alan Bestwick.
Mm-hmm. And it should be. But here's the thing. That's not official. The first announcement for either Amazon Prime and or TNT is Dale Jr. So we'll keep an eye on it for you. We'll let you know.
I personally would have done my lead guy first.
Yeah, but when you think about it, of all the names that are out there, if it's Dale Jr., he's the biggest name.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Alan Bestwick. He's the biggest name.
Yep.
Then comes a move that, well, it came out of left field. And I really have to wonder why.
That's
Let's give you the news. We'll talk about it first. We'll talk about the news, the details, and then we'll get into our commentary of it. Racer.com confirmed on Wednesday, right after Fox Sports aired NASCAR's Race Hub, that Fox Sports is going to be ending NASCAR Race Hub, their 1-hour news, NASCAR-centric news magazine, when Fox Sports coverage of NASCAR comes to an end. So it's an earlier ending of the show than what we have generally seen. Usually it runs through the end of the year. And that's what we were thinking. Well, it's just going to end for the season because they're done covering it, so they're not going to worry about it, right? No. It turned out it ends the show. Period. The show that began back in October of 2009, back when the network was called the Speed Channel. Earlier this year, when it debuted for the 2024 season on January the 29th, they celebrated with episode number 2500. The network has not said why they're ending it. I can give you one probable reason why they're ending it. And this is not my opinion. This has to do with the fact that Fox Sports is based out of Los Angeles. NASCAR Race Hub is broadcast out of a studio in Charlotte. It's not the cheapest of things to do to have that run from Charlotte through LA and then out to Fox Sports 1. And they've got themselves a good number of well-known people that are a part of it. Well, I'm not just talking about the hosts either, Shannon Spake and Caitlin Vincey. You think about it, Larry McReynolds is on there, Michael Waltrip's on there, Kevin Harvick's on there, Clint Boyer's on there. Then you've got all the current drivers and crew chiefs that are currently part of it.
They're more, and to me this makes no sense whatsoever.
It absolutely makes zero sense.
They're pushing a podcast more than they're pushing a news. This is, by definition, this is a news show.
It is.
For the sport.
Yeah.
This is the version of MLB Today, NFL Today, NFL pregame stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it.
If you want to look at it this way, it's NASCAR's version of 60 Minutes on CBS.
It makes no sense to me. The problem, this is the biggest problem with me, and I'm sure on their little respective pieces of property that they are at rest on, I'm sure Big Bill France and Bill Jr. are rolling over and doing somersaults where they're resting at.
Yeah.
In their grave. Why is this sport letting television dictate the every single stinking move that the wheel turns on a racetrack?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And I'll say this, right after this was announced, I saw more than one person on social media blame NASCAR for this. This isn't NASCAR. This is a Fox Sports decision. NASCAR didn't make this decision. This was Fox Sports. They're the ones canceling it. So don't blame NASCAR for this. You want to blame somebody, you blame Fox Sports. And we do.
The one time, hands down, the one time and only one that I have seen somebody that is within the sport sanction, let's call it the sports sanctioning body, whether it be a series official or a track president, only one time I've seen network television be overruled was Darlington 2019, when I saw Kerry Tharp look straight at the television executives and say, "We racing tonight, boys."
Yep. We're getting it done.
Guess what? Me and that guy right there shut the track down.
Yeah. And we talked about that during the podcast this week, too. Again, go back and look for episode 10 of Crossed Flags on CRN Live on YouTube, and you'll find out the whole thing.
And no, we didn't play out and mimic the scene of Varsity Blues when they were leaving the bar and get daylight. No, it wasn't the case. Did it feel like it? Yes, it did. Because we was there for 20 hours.
We were.
But was it worth it? You doggone right.
Absolutely it was. Yeah, it was absolutely worth it. It exhausted the two of us.
Jeez, that ride home the next day was brutal.
It was. Whew. We got out of the car 2 or 3 times because we needed to make sure we were awake and knew where we were. But this is a horrible move. And this comes on the heels of NASCAR having gone out in Charlotte and spent, how much money did they spend on that media center?
Too much.
This comes on the heels of NASCAR spending $50 to $75 million, give or take, on construction of a brand new media center with television and radio studios. It now hosts the Motor Racing Network. That's their new headquarters.
NASCAR Productions
is in there.
That's what it's going to get to. Every one of these races are going to end up being broadcast from one building, and it's going to take away the entire lore of broadcasting a live sporting event.
I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. To NASCAR, specifically, Indycar can do what they want with it. Formula One can do whatever they want with it. Heck, Formula One basically has a channel now. We just talked about it last week. It's on streaming services like Pluto TV. NASCAR, follow NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, the NFL. They've all got their own networks. And as we have noted here on this show, ratings-wise, NASCAR beats them all except for the NFL. You take an average NFL game, it draws the most sports viewers of any sport in the U.S. Second is NASCAR's Cup Series. Third, tie, pretty much, battles between an average NBA game and an average Major League Baseball game. And the NHL is behind that. All of those top 4 series sports, all of those major sports in the U.S., I knew I'd get that right, all have their own television cable networks that you can find somewhere on streaming. NASCAR, you're up. You just spent a ridiculous amount of money building a media center in Charlotte, North Carolina that is perfectly set up for you to be able to have your own network. Do it. And bring NASCAR Race Hub over there.
Well,
do it now.
Well, and take care of this in the break. I'm going to use a quote right here of YouTube Live from our Midwestern mayor, Mr. Tollickson. CRN will have to pick up the slack. Don't think that I won't. I'll go to 50 races a year. I don't care.
Be happy to. Be perfectly happy to. When we come back, we're going to stick with NASCAR for just a moment because one person in particular got to talking about the expansion of NASCAR from 3 to 4 car makers.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back. Fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Man, how long have we been talking about NASCAR expanding back out to at least 4 car makers? Well, probably since what? Dodge left in 2012?
Yep. Been a while.
I so wish they'd come back.
Yeah. And they've mentioned it time and time again, but, you know, they've gone from being co-owned with Mercedes to then sliding in with Fiat and becoming Fiat Chrysler. And a lot of people thought at that point in time that they might actually be willing to do so because that was about the time that they were getting back into Formula One, not only with Ferrari, because Ferrari technically is part of Fiat, although they're kind of held at arm's length here. You go do what you're going to go do. We'll just let you be yourself. And then another subgroup, Alfa Romeo, got in, mainly as a title sponsor, but still, Alfa Romeo got back into Formula One. So there was thought that, yeah, they might allow Dodge to get back into NASCAR. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. We have heard, mostly rumor, obviously, that Honda's been considering their future. Honda's definitely in Formula One. Right now, they're in Indycar. Could they expand to NASCAR? That's a thought. We've seen some actual mock-ups.
We have.
Ed Laux, who is a former executive with Toyota of North American, thinks that this is probably really the fact that we haven't got a 4th maker yet is based upon the fact that NASCAR is still kind of rooted somewhat in the past. And he thinks hybridization of these cars might be what it's going to take for NASCAR to move forward. He notes, for example, that his former employer, Toyota North America, has a V8, but that V8 does not go into any of their cars. The most they put into a car is a V6.
But didn't you develop a V8 for these cars? Yes, you did. Your point here is invalid, Ed Locks. Carry on.
He added that Chevrolet is dropping the Camaro nameplate, which eliminates another car with a V8 option. As far as what happened, a lot of people have been asking this. What's Chevrolet going to go through and go do? Because they also announced this week they're going to be dropping the Malibu. So a lot of people thought the Malibu might be what vehicle they might be coming to NASCAR. At this point in time, I don't think NASCAR is going to worry about the Camaro as a nameplate. I mean, in the past, we have seen a nameplate and a body style specifically be good for 2, sometimes 3 years after the fact. So I don't know if NASCAR is going to be all that worried about it as long as it's got a bow tie logo on it. And Chevrolet will still be involved.
They can run the Camaro car in that series as long as they want to.
Yeah, pretty much.
They can, which you're not going to change it to a Malibu because Malibu, they're leaving too.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go back to the Impala.
Because that's gone.
Camaro dropping that nameplate. What are you going to do? Go to a Cadillac? No, you're not. You're going to keep your brand car that signifies what you've developed through this entire series in its existence. You're going to find a way to keep it in play.
Yeah, you'll figure it out. So we'll see. Chevrolet's got something up their sleeve. We'll find out. Laux believes that this is a chance for NASCAR to get more in line with what people are actually buying when they go buy a car. Sports Business Journal got into this, and they reported that all the new prospective car companies that NASCAR have talked to have said that they would be willing to join in, but only if there are plans to move forward with hybrid racers in the near future. Now, Honda's been a target of NASCAR's for a few years now. Laux actually said that Hyundai could be interested in coming in to compete with NASCAR as well. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
We've talked about Honda before. Honda fits because they can easily slide in with the Accord in the Cup Series. They could stick with the Accord if they want to, or if they want to do a different nameplate for the Xfinity Series, they could use the Civic. And then they've got the Ridgeline as a pickup truck. We've wondered why Nissan isn't a bigger part of this. Because Nissan is like Honda. They have cars that fit all of these categories and a pickup truck. True. Hyundai's going to bring in what? The Santa Cruz? That funky little thing that's kind of like an El Camino? Remember those, kids? Ask your grandparents.
Please, for the love of humanity, no.
I mean, again, you want to come into NASCAR, bring it. Okay? But I want to see you bring it in all 3 of the top traveling series. And how are you going to do that when you really don't have a pickup truck?
What he said. You can't. You have a Hyundai Elantra, Hyundai Sonata.
Yeah, I mean, car models, that's not a problem.
Yeah,
and they're built
fine.
They're built 100 miles south of where we're broadcasting from right now.
Montgomery.
But what are you going to do with a pickup? How are you going to get into the Craftsman Truck Series? Because I can guarantee you, if NASCAR brings you into the Cup and Xfinity Series, they're going to want you to also participate in the Truck Series.
Could this be a foreshadowing of a new Hyundai truck?
I would rather see Nissan come in than Hyundai.
Well, that goes without saying.
I would rather hear, Matt Crafton driving them. Well, no, Matt Crafton will be probably retired by the time this happens. Let's just say, no, not this one. Who could I say? Oh, let's say, Timmy Hill driving the Units Hyundai Santa Cruz. Huh?
Yeah. It's going to be different. I mean, it's going to be, it doesn't matter what they bring in.
I would rather hear Timmy Hill and the Nissan Titan instead of Hyundai Santa Cruz.
Yeah. But it's going to be weird for a little while until we get used to it. It was a little odd for us to see the Dodge Rams back when they were Dodge Rams, it would be different for us to get used to. And it was different when Toyota came in because we weren't used to Toyota being in there. Now they're in there. They're whether you like it or not, Toyota's in.
Yep.
They're settled.
Yep.
And we've gotten used to hearing the Camry. We've gotten used to hearing the Supra name, even though the car doesn't look a dang thing like a Supra.
Nope.
And we've gotten used to hearing, the Toyota Tundra. I don't have a problem with it. We'll get used to it after a while, but yeah, it's going to be weird at the beginning.
That's a Toyota Sumri. That's a Camry Supra. It's Camry Supra
It's a
hybrid.
good way to put it. It's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
We'll find out over the course of time. But hey, you want to bring it in, bring it on. As far as hybridization, there are people out there that are going, if they go hybrid, I'll never come back to NASCAR. You're the same person that said NASCAR died when Dale Earnhardt died.
Ding.
NASCAR didn't die when Dale Earnhardt died. It, just like everything else on the planet, had to change. And it has changed. Do you like all the changes? No. Do I like all the changes? Not necessarily. But it had to. Things change over the course of time. I loved Darrell Waltrip racing. When DW retired, NASCAR didn't die. NASCAR kept moving on.
Darwall.
Okay. Richard Petty, maybe the most popular NASCAR driver of all time. Retired. Did it kill NASCAR? No. For you, that's you. In the real world, it didn't. Things change, things move on. We don't have to like them all, but they do.
Correct. The Mundo.
To the National Hot Rod Association, talking a little straight line action with his win at Charlotte ZMAX Dragway a couple of weeks ago, 4-wide national specifically. Matt Hagan moved into some pretty elite territory. In the finals, he bested J.R. Todd, Daniel Wilkerson, and most notably, John Force. And with that, he claimed his 50th win in funny car competition. 4th, by the way, in the Charlotte 4-wide nationals. So that puts him in some fairly elite company. Hagan said of his milestone win, quote, "This is obviously a massive achievement to win 50 races and to have Dodge sponsoring us for so many years. To see so many people come in and go out here, you just don't realize that it's you. You're like, wow, I've been out here a little over 15 years. It's just a huge accomplishment in my book. And to be able to be around a group of guys that's been nothing but the best out there, I think that's why we won 4 championships, put us in an elite group of drivers. John Force, Don Prudhomme, Kenny Bernstein's pretty crazy," he went on. "I'm very blessed to still be out here surrounded by a great group of guys that gave me a great race car. Now we're going to celebrate." Hopefully they're ready to go next weekend when they get back into action. And knowing Tony Stewart and those guys over there at Tony Stewart Racing, they will be.
For sure.
After the disqualification that we talked about last week on this show in IndyCar related to Joseph Newgarden and Scott McLaughlin, the NHRA did the same thing. Except in this case, it was a qualifying run. Bob Tasca III's second qualifying run at Charlotte, they disqualified it because they determined that his intake manifold had been media blasted, which is considered a modification. It's not allowed. All intake manifolds, according to NHRA rules, must be in their original in-the-box form from the manufacturer. Okay. NHRA officials noted that after further review, further penalties might be applied to the team and or the driver, but we haven't heard anything since, so maybe they'll escape that. Maybe they just get the disqualification. The team didn't have to have a replacement manifold. They were able to borrow one from another team, specifically from Steve Torrance. You noted something about that particular situation.
Yes, I did. Bob Tasca is primarily backed by the Ford Motor Company.
Mm-hmm.
And they have primary backing with all the Motorcraft, Dark Horse Mustang logos, anything Ford related.
Yeah.
Steve Torrance is backed by Toyota.
But whatever it was, he raced. Tasca took a couple of days, but after the race weekend at Charlotte, he attempted to try to explain the situation. He said that their media blasting was to put color on it. They were color coding their manifolds for use throughout the course of the year. They effectively painted the manifold. They didn't look to change the intake. They didn't want to try to make it allow more flow of anything. They were just color coding it, adding that before the season began, his team gave all of those manifolds to the National Hot Rod Association to confirm that they met specifications. Tasca noted that the NHRA returned the manifolds to the team without denoting any problems. And they proceeded to use those manifolds in the events leading up to that race in Charlotte. Now, all of a sudden, he says the NHRA is claiming there's a problem.
And that's on the NHRA. If they said there was no problem, they did not say there was a problem. Now they're saying there's a problem. It sounds like to me somebody did a protest.
Yeah. Tasca said the NHRA said, yes, we returned them, but we didn't actually say that there wasn't a problem. Well, here's the thing. If you're going to return my manifolds and you give me nothing, I'm going to assume they're good to go. I'm kind of with Tasca on this one. Hey, could the Deep South of the United States get back into hosting top-level NHRA racing? We know we have the Charlotte ZMAX Dragway, and there's Gainesville with the Gator Nationals. Deep South, though, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana. Well, if Nelson Hoyos and his wife Marla have anything to say about it, Louisiana could. The couple have bought into State Capital Dragway in Baton Rouge, which has hosted in the past the top division of NASCAR. As it stands, the couple made enough improvements to the track that the NHRA brought back the Sports Nationals division. Between that and Hoyos is hoping a state grant. He wants to be able to upgrade the grandstands, the restrooms, put in more concession stands, expand the parking, all of which NASCAR would require for them to bring in the top level, the Mission Foods Drag Racing Series, to even consider adding it to the schedule. We'll see. Sam Bird was involved in a practice session crash back at the Monaco Grand Prix, or E-Prix. He broke a bone in his left hand. It's essentially the same injury that kept him out of the car for the 2022 season finale in Seoul, South Korea. He missed Berlin. Taylor Bernard set to fill in for him. He finished in the top 10 in this morning's race. McLaren's Formula E team principal Ian James said, we're pleased to report positive progress on Sam's recovery. Successful operation, so it appears. He may be back before the end of the year. And Andretti Formula E has announced they've signed an extension of their deal with Porsche to use Porsche battery units to run through the end of the 2026 season. Marks the end of the current generations of the Formula E car. Andretti teamed with Porsche back in 2022, switching from BMW when they left the series, helped Andretti Autos, Global in this case now, claim their first driver's title with driver Jake Dennis. Got 2 wins through last season to help. We'll see what happens past that. We're going to join Xfinity. I'm sorry, I do that every time. Cup Series qualifying right after we're done. Have a great week.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
WDNG 1450 AM
and W236 CQ 95.1 FM Anniston.
95.1 The Mountain.
Anniston Oxford's classic station.